जी सब बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। I, Professor Dr. Shafiqur Rahman, HOD Economics and Finance, on behalf of Worthy Vice Chancellor of Greenwich University and renowned educationist, Madam Seema Mughal and the Star Said Mughal, welcome Professor Dr. Zilakat, former Chairman, Department of Economics, Peshawar University, Professor Dr. Imran Sharif, Dean and Director, School of Economics, Bahauddin Zakaria University, Multan, and Professor Dr. Raza Ali, Chairman, Department of Economics and Management Sciences, NED University of Engineering and Technology, and Senior Member of Editorial Board of Roznama Jang, Minhaj Urab. Welcome to present your views on COVID-19 and its impact on economy of Pakistan. The moderator of this webinar is Mr. Ali Raza Jilani. He is the head of diplomatic affairs and he is vice chairman of Karachi Research Chair, Greenwich University. Now I hand over the responsibility of this webinar to Mr. Ali Raza Jilani. Please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shafiq Saab. I also have the pleasure of having this wonderful panel with me. First of all, let me just have a quick word with you in terms of how's life during this particular pandemic. Zilakat Saab, I'll start with you. How's life in Peshawar as far as the pandemic is concerned, and how are you uh, adapting to the new normal, sir?
Start. Hello.
Ji Zilakat Saab, please.
Are you understand me? Hello.
I think we have some disruption. There are always these technical issues as far as live broadcasts go. So I'll move to Professor Imran Sharif Chaudhry. Sir, how's the pandemic and how are you adopting to the new normal?
The pandemic situation is all over the world. Pakistan and in Multan is the same. So we all are facing the same
Mhm.
situation. Is concerned, there are some issues facing apart from some other social and psychological issues on which today we all are here together to pandemic 19. Now, if you let me start to my lecture here, or you want to discuss
Thank you,
something
sir. I
else?
just wanted your initial comment on the current situation. Now I'll move to Professor Raza Ali Khan for your response to how the pandemic is in your particular area and how are the adaptation measures going.
Thank you, Ali. You know that the COVID-19 has become the hot topic today, and this novel virus COVID-19 has reoriented our relationship to the outside the world, even to each other. We are living in isolation, and now the new term is physical isolation, not in only social isolation. So
Right.
you know, in Karachi, life is going on. Uh, and there is a problem of definitely social isolation and physical isolation, especially due
Right.
to our economic situations and
Right.
economic tasks.
I see. All right. Thank you very much. I will now present the preamble of this particular program, and then I'll request for the initial comments of the experts on the issue. Uh, Greenwich University's webinar on vitalizing the economy in Pakistan. This is our today's topic. COVID-19 has sent shockwaves across economies, affecting agriculture, industry, as well as services sectors, bankrupting businesses around the world. This is compounded by the dried out supply chains, adverse demand shock, and rocketing projections for economic bailouts worth trillions of dollars and counting. The pandemic has battered micro as well as macroeconomic governance systems, ever graver in concern and greater in scale, even compared to the Great Depression of 1930s. Bloomberg and The Economist project that the situation might also reshape global political economy due to its adverse effects on the future of dollar in the backdrop of the emergent petrodollar crises and China's rise with its overwhelming economic might. Survival of economies, markets, and businesses has become the prime focus for economists as well as policymakers around the world. Low middle income countries like Pakistan are the hardest hit and likely to experience shrinking foreign exchange reserves, severe debt distress, loss of revenues through international trade and remittances, and declining business activity at home due to over reliance on manufacturing goods. The pandemic has entered a critical stage in Pakistan with severe lockdowns amidst intense debates across public and policy domains. The situation has disproportionately affected those among daily wagers and could push vast segments of the population into acute poverty. Pakistan Institute of Development Economics projects that the economic shock could result in about 19 million people losing their source of income, pushing a total of about 130 million people into poverty. The poorest at the receiving end of the grave economic consequences, like low working opportunities, high layoffs, and inadequate financial protection, require urgent attention. The provision of short and medium term relief programs might fall too short in terms of efficiency as well as sufficiency of social protection systems in Pakistan. Greenwich University's today's webinar on revitalizing the economy in Pakistan amid COVID-19 seeks a collective reflection on different questions and several such perspectives from the experts that we have on the panel. And I would like to request for the initial comment on what are some of the most pressing challenges that we have with our economy. I'll start with Professor Imran Sharif Chaudhry.
Yeah, thank you. I would explain here that what the consequences of this pandemic COVID-19 has been trickled down to the world economy and particularly to the Pakistan's economy. So as far as this the outbreak of this pandemic all over the world has distributed disturbed and economic financial structures, the social, political, religious matters of the whole world. And I would particularly emphasize on the some financial and economic impacts on the Pakistan, and as well as a little bit I will talk about the world economy. So as far as the world's topmost economies such as Germany, France, Italy, Japan, and many others. So I think countries in the world at the verge of their maximum economic loss. Even the loss is more than all the economic depressions. For example, the economic depression, if we talk about the economic depression of 1930 or the 2008 of financial crisis. And I think so the impact of this COVID-19 is more than that economic depressions. In terms of losing of jobs all over the world, and particularly the people who are working on the daily wages and who are on the day-to-day basis, they were earning the income. So they are severely affected in the world. But as far as financial economics is concerned, the stock markets around the world have also founded, and oil prices have fallen off a cliff. So you have seen that there was a big fall in the prices, and just a very small recovery in the prices have been seen over the world. But still the prices have been falling. So in just a week, so if we look at the figures, the 3.3 million Americans applied for the unemployment, and they just for the unemployed allowance. So in a week later, and another 6.6 million people started searching for jobs. They were lost due to this discontinuity in the economic activities in the world. Moreover, so the COVID-19 is harming the global economy because the world has been experiencing the most difficult economic situation at the moment since the World War II. Because after that, there was the rebuild of, I think so, Many of the companies and many of the businesses have been closed, and there would be enough time that should be required to rebuild and to go on the same track after many years. So due to this
Right.
COVID-19 lockdown has restricted various businesses such as traveling to the to contain the viruses. Consequently, this business is coming to an abrupt halt globally. So there are many examples of like that businesses that the tourism is one of them. So the
Right.
traveling from country to another country that has been restricted. So many of
Mm.
the small industries that were correlated with the tourism and some other the related industries that have been closed down. So keeping in
Right.
view the staggering and the situation of COVID-19, it is safely mentioned that the unemployment will reach to around 30%. So the
Right.
economy would shrink by half almost. So I am talking about the figures of the World Bank.
Mhm.
And the economic growth rates will be in negative and in all over the world. So you have seen the budget estimates of the recently of many of countries. They have mentioned that their growth rate have been gone to the negative rate. So as
Right.
far as the jobs of a common people are concerned, there is also a real threat of losing their jobs because uh, with the business shutting down, that shows that companies will be unable to pay workers. Resultantly, they have to lay off them. While when comes to the stock market, it is also severely damaged by COVID-19, such as the stock markets are down almost
Mm.
by 30%. So,
Mm.
as far as World Bank estimates are concerned,
Mm.
uh, they said that because of this baseline forecast,
Mm.
5.2% contraction in the global GDP. So it means that 5.2% would be the lesser GDP of the world in 2020. And
Yeah.
similarly, so by looking over the existing condition of several businesses, most of the investors are removing its money from multiple businesses in this regard of about $83 billion has already been removed from emerging economies or the markets since the outbreak of this COVID-19. So
Mm.
it is also observed that the economic recovery from this fatal disease is
Mm.
also is only possible by 2021 maybe, or maybe the early than that, because it has left severe impacts on the global economy. And the
Right.
country is facing multiple difficulties
Mm.
to bring it back in the stable conditions. So that will
Mm.
take a time. And definitely the people who were engaged with the daily basis businesses, so
Mm.
definitely they will come again on the track after some time period. And one more thing is very important, that the saving that were always very Pakistan is very low in the saving rate. So due to this lockdown and this COVID-19,
Mm.
so the saving rate has been declined very sharply. So because the
Right.
savings of the people have been just finished due to because they were not getting income and they have started to consume the savings and they have to sell some of the assets. They have don't have any type of economic activity and they were just to meet their ends. So
Mm.
most of the countries are going through this recession and collapse of the economic structure,
Right.
in particularly in the informal sector, in Pakistan particularly, and in some of the developing countries as well. So
Mm.
almost 80 countries, including Pakistan, have
Mm.
already requested the IMF for financial help. And
Mm.
the Organization for Economic Cooperation and the Development, OECD, stated
Mm.
that the global growth could be cut in half to 1.5% in 2020. So if the virus continues to spread, and this is very alarming for the next time, for the coming days. So I have fear and can predict that this pandemic could lead to inflation in some of food items, because
Mm.
uh, the production, as far as production is concerned, that would be affected. So
Right.
there's no any issue about the aggregate demand related to this inflation, because so the people are just getting their goods and services. They are not producing at the same level as they were before this COVID-19. So there
Mm.
may be a wave of inflation in the
Right.
coming days. So you have seen that in Pakistan, the prices of the sugar, and though there are so many other issues relating to the flour and the sugar, but in fact that may be called the market distortions, but that
Right.
may come to later on. So there are various sectors and economies that seem most vulnerable because of this pandemic situation. So as I
Mm.
have already told you that the both demand and supply have been affected by the viruses, but more likely the demand and supply side. So this depressed activity, economic activity. So the FDI also flows would fall between 5 to 15%. This is world estimation, and
Mm.
this is happening due to the close down of shutting down of some of businesses. So by
Yeah.
the multinationals. So the besides this, most affected sectors have become vulnerable, such as I have already told you that about the tourism and
Mm.
the travel related industries, hotels, restaurants, and
Yeah.
so some other sports activities, consumer electronics. So there are so many other list of industries that are now at the verge of this breakdown. So the transportation
Sure.
and the so another thing is the overloaded of this our health system in all over the world, not in Pakistan but all over the world, and
Mm.
all the goods and all the equipments that are required and needed in the health sector. So
Mhm.
they have the highest demand in the world. So this is only the one thing where we can say that the prices of the COVID-19 related instruments and the tablets and the medicines, they all have the rise in the price level.
Mm.
So, because of this all consequence, I would suggest some of things that how to overcome now. Look at in Pakistan that how we can overcome all that. In my view, that essential containment measures and support for the health system is very much important, and the
Right.
government should invest on that side. And I think the government should relax some of the
Mm.
uh, tax measures towards that type of economy, that type of micro or small scale industry. So they are
Sure.
producing the health equipments and all that. So that,
Mm.
for example, sanitizers and the masks and all other relevant medicines. So the government should also provide the financial support to the small businesses. So rather
Mm.
than give some money to some particular household, so on that I have my own reservation that
Mm.
the government should not give some money, but that can be a very short-term solution for the people to come
Mm.
out from this 1 month or 2 month or 3 month solution. But we
Mm.
cannot suggest that. So the government, if pay some of money to the people, to the household, then that may be a solution for the long term. So to come out that people from the below the poverty line or some there to meet their basic necessities. So I think so they should be involved in the economic activity. That is very much important. And similarly, so there should be shield affected people and firms with large and timely target fiscal and financial sector measures that are very much important. And I think so the present government is successfully addressing all that issues, keeping in view the circumstances of the economy and the condition of the FBR and all other things. As far as financial system is concerned, I think so. There is a little stress on the financial economic system in Pakistan, and there is a need to restore the economic activities as soon as possible. So, and I think so. The government is also serious toward this one step. And one more thing that so the government should swearly and that they should think about that they should maintain the market system. So the government should take some steps to avoid the market distortions, and they
Mm.
should strictly make some legal measures, or they should take some legal measures to stop this distortion in the market. So which is giving the fluctuation in the prices of the basic necessities. And
Mm.
another thing is that the government should also support to the our informal sector. And informal sector is the sector which is giving they are contributing the economy, but in fact that they are severely affected. So apart from some so the medium enterprises and all that, but the government
Thank
should
you.
also at the moment. And I think the time is very short. and I'm thinking that so I should close down here my discussion there.
Uh,
So
I'll come back to you again. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Imran Sharif Chaudhry, for that comprehensive comment. You spoke quite a few perspectives. I mean, you spoke about the economic depression around the world. You also spoke about foreign direct investment shrinking. So I'll come back and seek your comments also on the informal economy in Pakistan again in my second round of questions. Now, I'll move to Dr. Zilakat Khan for your initial comments, sir, on the impact of COVID-19 on developing economies in general and Pakistan in particular, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Uh, First of all, I'm thankful to Dr. Shafiq Rahman Saab and you, and salam to Dr. Raza and Dr. Imran Saab.
Well,
Uh, my comments will be on the economy of Pakistan, that how this pandemic has disturbed the economy of Pakistan,
Right.
and then what measures or steps have been taken by the government of Pakistan
Mm.
in order to revive the economy, and what the government has to do in future in order to put back the economy on track.
Mm.
We know that this uh, pandemic has disturbed the economy of Pakistan in multiple ways.
Right.
From interrupted supply lines, multiple closures to halted manufacturing plants, every industry has felt its impact. The major affected categories include small restaurants and marriage halls, with which
Mm.
multiple occupations are also affiliated. Again, schools, colleges, and private academies also come under this category, as their being closed means professionals affiliated with education are facing severe financial impact, with many being laid off their jobs.
Mm.
As Dr. Imran mentioned, tourism is another industry or sector which has been severely affected by this pandemic. The
Mm.
tourism industry, which accounts for 8% for the global services trade,
Mm.
is now at a halt.
Mm.
According to the World Tourism and Trade Council's annual report, the Pakistan travel and tourism industry was estimated to rise more than 5.9%, crossing
Mm.
986 billion rupees in 2018, and
Mm.
at that time it was contributing 2,489 billion, which was about 7.4% of the GDP to the national income,
Mm.
and was creating 4 million jobs and attracting capital investment of more than 410 billion rupees. Now
Right.
all that has been gone because of the uh, lockdown.
Yeah.
The leisure travel spending in 2018 was around 1,252 billion and attracting around 1.2 million tourists in Pakistan. But as I mentioned that now due to lockdown implementation, we will observe an overall decline, including in the tourism and aviation industry. Again,
Right.
so far as the aviation industry is concerned,
Mm.
a few days back when the aviation minister presented that PIA inquiry report in the National Assembly. So
Mm.
we know that what has happened to the PIA and our aviation industry. ये हमारी
Mm.
अकल है जो हम कर रहे हैं अपने साथ, तो अल्लाह मजीद खैर करे कि आगे क्या होगा if this is the situation. The World Bank and other donors have approved different packages to help Pakistan improve its healthcare and education, make
Mm.
economic prospects for women, and strengthen social safety as the country readies itself from the impact of the coronavirus on its economy.
Right.
Now, I'm giving you the impact of the COVID-19 on the employment situation in the country,
Mm.
and then the various fiscal and monetary steps which were taken by the government in order to put back the economy on track.
Mm.
Initially, it was estimated that in case of limited restrictions, about 2.4 million jobs will be lost. Under moderate restrictions, the loss could reach to 12.3 million and about 19 million people will be unemployed in case of complete shutdown.
Yeah.
So this was the initial estimates of the government and its different agencies responsible for this. Now the steps which were taken by the government,
Hmm.
the most prominent are in the wake of this pandemic, the government approved a relief package of 144 billion rupees to provide immediate cash relief to 12,000 uh, rupees per family and
Hmm.
under the SS program. Similarly, the Benazir Income Support Program budgetary allocation were
Hmm.
raised from 102 billion to 180 billion.
Hmm.
Again, as Dr. Imran said, that I do have also do have some reservations about the SAS program and the Benazir Income Support Program. I mean, जितना पैसा हम यहाँ पर लगा रहे हैं, अगर ये instead of giving them for consumption purposes, suppose in case
Hmm.
of Benazir Income Support Program,
Hmm.
1,500 rupees per month is given to a family, and in this the family can purchase just 5 kg of sugar and a bag of 20 kilo of flour. So
Hmm.
this is nothing. It cannot change the fate of the family. Instead of giving this money, if we uh, prepare a plan that these people have to be provided jobs or some small businesses such as जो सड़क के किनारे कोका या हाथ गाड़ी में कुछ चीज़ें रख के देते हैं, यहाँ हमने पिशावर में की भी है एक एनजीओ के साथ इस तरह की चीज़ें जो छोटी
Hmm.
छोटी चीज़ों को वो हम 12 रुपए से उनके लिए एंड अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह नाउ दे आर डूइंग वेल एंड जिस आदमी के लिए हमने 5-6 हज़ार से वो की थी कोका कोला था, अब उसके साथ 2-3 लोग जो हैं वो काम कर रहे हैं और
Hmm.
बिलियंस ऑफ रुपीस जो है हम every year we are wasting in Benazir income support program and this एहसास. तो for a time being it's a short term measure कि आप किसी को फाइनेंशियल हेल्प करते हैं और वो कुछ चीज़ें डिमांड जो है वो कर लेते हैं और इससे एक इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी स्टार्ट हो जाती है, बट दिस इज नॉट द परमानेंट सोल्यूशन,
Hmm.
राइट. Again, on the fiscal side, the government announces a fiscal stimulus package of rupees 124 trillion, while the State Bank of Pakistan provided liquidity support to the households and businesses to help them through the ensuing temporary phase of economic disruption. The monetary measures taken by the State Bank of Pakistan, it has prepared a comprehensive arrangement to facilitate the small medium enterprises and small corporates in availing under the refinance scheme for payment of wages and salaries to prevent layoffs. I'm not
Hmm.
going into detail because these things have been discussed in print and electronic media so many times, so almost everyone knows something about these.
Right.
The Now what has to be done to put the economy back on the track of development?
Hmm.
As the finance minister in his the minister for economic affairs in his budget speech said that we have to increase our expenditures. So the government has to adopt easy fiscal policy. That means the government has to increase its expenditure and reduce taxes. And as I mentioned that the Minister for Economic Affairs, he said that in his budget speech that we have to increase the expenditure, but if you recall, simultaneously said that the government will go for austerity measures. It means that if the government goes for austerity measure, this means that the government will not increase its expenditure. So what I suggest here is that the government should increase its expenditure and the austerity measure should be taken in case of non-developmental expenditures. We are spending a lot of money on non-developmental expenditures, for example, on treatment abroad, on foreign trips, tours. So all those which are non-developmental expenditures, they have to be reduced. The austerity measure has to be taken over there, and the development expenditure that has to be increased, so that the people may have money in their
Yeah.
pocket and they may go to demand goods and services, and in this way the economic activity will go on. The second measure which I suggest, that instead of managing the demand side, the government or the nation have has to manage the supply side. So supply side management instead of demand side management in order to check inflation. And this is especially in case of food items. Food inflation in Pakistan is increasing at an alarming rate. So in order to check the food inflation in the country, we have to go for supply side management instead of demand side management, which is always uh, emphasized by the IMF. Another important thing which must be done by the government, that is the checking of smuggling, in order to avoid shortage of goods in the domestic market. And again, I'll say that the focus should be on food items. Here in Peshawar, uh, usually in the markets, the prices of fruits, vegetables, poultry, etc., when they are going to Afghanistan, the prices are very high. But when they are not going to Afghanistan, the prices are low and they are available in abundance. So this checking the smuggling is very important.
Right.
Again, different incentives have to be given by the government to the business community, as the government did in case of construction industry. Construction was a sector was declared by the government as an industry. The status was given by the government, and I think apart from other things, that the construction sector, it creates jobs, and it has so many other industry on its back which supply input. One of the objective of the government by declaring this construction sector as an industry is that to bring this industry into the tax net. Later on, as जिस तरह हमारी आदत है कंस्ट्रक्शन सेक्टर से वाबस्ता लोगों को इसका पता चल जाएगा कि हमारे साथ क्या हुआ, अब तो वो खुश हो रहे हैं. And another important suggestion is that the regulating, revisiting, and reviewing of the Afghan transit trade.
So there's some distortion in your voice. If you can repeat your last comment, please. I think there's some connectivity issue. Thank you very much, Professor Zilakat, for that comprehensive comment. When we speak of public expenditures in the same breath as we do IMF, then it's primarily IMF conditionalities which restrict governmental policy space in terms of
Items.
public expenditure
So,
across key
our
strategic sectors. Yes, sir,
discussion
please
because of
continue.
shortage of time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Professor. I was just, relating to what you said. When we speak of public expenditures in the same breath as we do of IMF, then it's the IMF conditionalities more often than not, which basically restrict governmental spending across key strategic sectors like health, education, and social protection, due to those fiscal consolidation and austerity measures usually in place. And that is something which I will come back to you again. Thank you for also talking about the food inflation bit, where we also need to be considerate as far as Pakistan is concerned in terms of food insecurity. which engulfs pretty much half the population already before COVID, and the situation is becoming critical as we move on. Now I'll move to Professor Raza Ali Khan. Sir, I'd like to request for your comment on how the pandemic has affected developing economies in general and Pakistani economy in specific.
Okay, thank you, Ali. Most of the things have already covered by my respected learned colleagues, Dr. Zalakhat and Dr. Imran. And the picture they painted, in the light of that, we can say that now it has been clear that the situation is not normal. It is a very complicated situation. And the corona crisis is entirely different from the previous economic crisis. Even it is faster than the Great Depression.
Right.
Great Depression, right? So there is no way to tell exactly what the economic damage from the corona will be. It is difficult to predict that how the financial market will respond, international financial market will respond. But there is no doubt that it will have a severe negative impact on the global economy and as well as the less developed economies. And the biggest source of economic pain for Pakistan and other less developed economy is lockdown and social distancing policy. I know that there is no doubt that the lockdown and social distancing policy save lives, but also force economy into the recessions. A strategy of testing, tracing, and isolating has proven unfeasible for the most less developed economies because
Right.
these economies have not the necessary testing capacity as well as technology and the governmental structures to effectively and efficiently trace and isolate the infected peoples. So the
Right.
lockdown necessary to save the life, but will immediately increase the poverty, sharp reduction in consumption, and export and hunger also. So the $1 million question is that what should be done in this situation, especially by the developing countries like Pakistan, where they should take start to respond the COVID-19. So uh, I think that it is in our hands to limit the damages and to establish the foundation for a strong rebound afterwards. So the strong response, I would like to basically mention here the informal sector of economy, which is badly hurting due to the COVID-19, and the informal economy has basically short of cash into the system, right? So the there is a need to take the big and bold steps, and a quick way to get cash into the informal economy is to engage the small level public works at district and council level. Use the local government for these activities. If the government successfully inject money with transparency and effectively, this could be an important tool to respond to the COVID-19. This is the one way. The other thing which I would like to mention here that there's a need to establish a crisis management cell and to include the people who are honest, professional, and committed and loyal to the country to develop or establish a national response plan and has
Right.
a potential to effectively implement that plan, right, for addressing the COVID-19 and develop a policy. If we talk about the policy, there are the four special areas in which we have to make or cover in our policy. The first important thing is health, the, the supply and demand of essential goods and services. the domestic financial circuit in local currency, the
Hmm.
foreign currency market, and develop the link to the international trade, external debt, and the international agencies. And
Hmm.
and and I think that the CMC, I mean Crisis Management Cell, should coordinate with the international organizations, and
Hmm.
an international organization must support to uh, fiscal stimulus in developing countries, allowing
Hmm.
them the policy space to decide how to do this. And they should also encourage leaders in developing countries to establish an effective central crisis management office. So this is
Right.
my comment over this COVID-19.
Hmm. Thank you very much for those insightful comments. I think the most critical that I'd pick is the external debt issue because there's a lot of momentum going around at the moment. In terms of debt distress reduction for developing countries, where there is a lot of campaigning as far as civil society and some intergovernmental mechanisms are concerned, pushing these international financing and monetary institutions to provide debt relief packages to these countries, either by restructuring or by halting, the payments for, at least a few years to enable these economies to actually stabilize themselves before they are back into the scheme again. So I think that's very important, and I'll come back to you again. I'll move now to Professor Imran Sharif Chaudhry now. Sir, you spoke about the shrinking foreign direct investment. We had this webinar a few days back with people from different businesses, experts in their field, and there was a lot of emphasis on digitization and technological transition to online business and e-commerce, especially trying to recover from the pandemic situation. So while we're talking about the foreign direct investment, how do you see, I mean, technology transfer from the developed world into the developing countries like Pakistan could play a critical role in helping stabilize national economies?
Yeah, well, Ali, that's very good question. In fact, that where we see some issues and problems, definitely there would be some opportunities as well. So the
Right.
opportunity for the e-business is equally important. So where I have talked about the impact and negative impact of COVID-19,
Hmm.
definitely there would be so the source of emerging the new businesses as well. So the e-businesses and the businesses that will be on the online. So
Right.
definitely there will be an opportunity for those people, for the investors as well, to invest
Hmm.
in such businesses, so which
Right.
can contribute to the economic. So basically, there would be time. So that will shift from so the traditional businesses to the e businesses. So there would be a time requirement, and definitely the people are not used to this online businesses and all that. So
Hmm.
definitely, with the passage of time, the people will learn to work on that businesses, and
Yeah.
definitely people who want to invest in that businesses.
Hmm.
Another thing is that, so I have talked about the FDI,
Hmm.
that the volume and level of FDI would be that have been shrink down. So that I have talked about the world economies. So,
Hmm.
but as far as Pakistan is concerned, due to the CPEC, so in
Hmm.
Pakistan there is no, because you know that only in Pakistan about only $2 billion investment is FDI. So that is very small amount. So, but I
Right.
was talking about where there is the 20, $30 billion investment more than that. So
Hmm.
the volume and the level of foreign FDI is now
Right.
that has been shrink down in that countries or in that economy. But as far as
Right.
Pakistan is concerned, so there is only $2 billion investment in Pakistan, and that is majorly is just because of CPEC projects. So there
Hmm.
is no much disturbance on that side in Pakistan. But as far as, so as you said that the e-businesses and online businesses, definitely it would be a good opportunity for the
Hmm.
people and for the employment, definitely. But as far as I was talking earlier about on this informal, and my all colleagues, Professor Zilakat and Dr. Raza, both, so they have emphasized on the informal economy. The
Hmm.
reason is that, So the informal economy, if we look at the people, so they were sitting around the roads and they were doing their businesses at very small level. For example, anybody is sitting on the road and he's selling the mangoes or some other things. Now, just because the how many people are moving from one city to another city, so there is a close down of the movement of one city to another city. So now the days are coming that when the transport is going to open and like that, so their businesses are severely affected. So the
Right.
people who were, for example, who they have the shop of the punctures near the petrol pump or somewhere, so definitely there, if there would be no transport, then who will do for that? So the similar
Right.
type of businesses in the informal, that I have given you just few examples, but
Right.
similarly, so the businesses of such type of small business, informal economy really has been disturbed, and definitely so they have to think about the on the other way, the substitute of the businesses, they are definitely the online businesses.
Thank you, Professor. I think you touch a very important point there because of these supply chains drying out, and then because of lack of transportation across not just small cities but also even regions at the global level. There's a lot of emphasis, around the world in terms of diversification of your production capacities at the local level, as well as the supply chains itself. Like, I mean, if you're importing something from one particular destination, then you'd probably have to think about the other one as well. So there's a lot of emphasis around that. I'll come back to you again on that. Now I'll move to Professor Zilallah Khan. You spoke about the SAS program. Social protection systems in Pakistan have already taken a lot of criticism, from civil society in particular, because you spoke about the 12,000 rupees package that people get, and you talk about the sustainability of that investment, whether it could be in shape of, say, microfinancing schemes, in shape of, say, small enterprises where we could build their capacity and provide the money to adequately spend it, and have some source of livelihood. I'd want you to shed some more light on what could be some of the strategies for enhancing the business activity in Pakistan of these small scale enterprises.
Thank you. Before answering your question, I would like to add to Dr. Imran's
Sure.
questions. So far, you asked about the transfer of technology, that how this uh, can take place or something like that. But here I'm telling you that in case of transfer of technology, we have adopted very weak policies in the past. We have
Hmm.
not asked the multinational corporation to transfer
Right.
their technologies into
Hmm.
Pakistan, as our counterpart in the subcontinent, this India, has done.
Yeah.
Uh, for example, for the last 20 years, millions of Pakistanis, they are using mobile phones.
Yeah.
We have given permission to many multinational companies to operate
Hmm.
in Pakistan, but we have not asked them to bring technology into the country, to
Yeah.
manufacture mobile phone sets in the country.
Hmm.
So, if we ask these companies that you are allowed to do your business in Pakistan, but you have to bring technology into the country. So, in
Hmm.
this way, we can easily industrialize our economy. Agriculture sector,
Yeah.
some other sectors which we call as backbone of the economy, they are not in a position to
Hmm.
give jobs to the increasing number of youth which are coming every year into the field, into the
Absolutely.
job markets. So
Yeah.
agriculture sector has no more this capacity. So the only way to provide jobs to the young, this young generation, and that is through the transfer of technology,
Hmm.
and this has to be done by the government to ask these multinational corporations that once you are doing your business in Pakistan, you have to bring your technology over here. You have to manufacture whatever you do in Pakistan. So this is the only way I think that we have to do, and we can industrialize our economy. So far is the your question is concerned, as I told you that in my comments, that a SAS program or Benazir income support program, uh, this when we are giving money to a household, to a family, तो यहाँ मैं आपको बता दूं कि हम भीख मांगने वालों की तादाद को बढ़ा रहे हैं. We are not building their capacities. The focus should be on the capacity building of these families. और मैंने आपको एक मिसाल दी कि यहाँ पिशावर में हमने एक माजूर था, उसके लिए तकरीबन 5 या 6 हज़ार रुपये इकट्ठे किए और सड़क के किनारे उसको बैठा दिया, एक हाथ गाड़ी उसको दे दी, उसमें टॉफीज, सिगरेट, नस्वार, इस तरह की चीज़ें थी. और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह आप आज देख ले वहाँ पर उसके साथ उसका बेटा भी काम करें और उसके 2 ब्रदर इन लॉज भी उसके साथ काम करें, और वही हाथ गाड़ी है, लेकिन उसका बिजनेस जो है वो फ्लरिश हुआ है. तो अगर हम भी इतने पैसे जो बेनजीर इनकम सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम में लगा रहे हैं या एहसास में दे रहे हैं, फॉर वन टाइम इट्स वेल एंड गुड, बट नॉट फॉर अ लॉन्गर पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. हम यही पैसे कुछ वो करके इकट्ठे करके और फैमिलीज को आइडेंटिफाई करके उनको के लिए व्हाई नॉट टू स्टार्ट बिजनेसेस फॉर देम, सो दैट ये पीपल जो है दे मे बी अ जॉब गिवर इंस्टेड ऑफ जॉब सीकर्स, या भीख मांगने से यही बेहतर है. तो अगेन आई suggest that we have to frame such policies that instead of wasting this big amount of money on the purchases or for giving them for consumption purposes, कि हम we should spend this on the capacity building. और लास्ट गवर्नमेंट में तो हमने ये भी देखा पीपल्स पार्टी की गवर्नमेंट में कि मोबाइल फोन्स जो है वो बेनजीर इनकम सपोर्ट प्रोग्राम्स में दिए गए. तो जब आपने उसको मोबाइल फोन दे दिया, आपने उसका खर्चा बढ़ा दिया. एक तरफ उसको खाने का नहीं मिल रहा है, एंड ऑन द अदर साइड यू आर गिविंग देम मोबाइल फोन्स, तो उसका खर्चा भी बढ़ा रहे हैं. सो आई थिंक दिस इज नॉट अ वाइज पॉलिसी कि इस तरह की चीजें हम करें. हमें कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग और उनके लिए स्मॉल स्मॉल बिजनेसेस जो है स्टार्ट करने को जो है वो तरजीह दी जाए, देनी चाहिए.
Thank you very much for that comment, sir. I would actually also like to contextualize the comments that you just made. As far as the sufficiency of SAS program is concerned, I mean, World Bank has had a lot of criticism. There was an assessment of our social protection program last year, and we understood that just with 29% people under the poverty line, you had severe issues. You could barely cover like 5% of those people through this social protection program. And now that we're talking about over 130 million people falling below the poverty line, it could be even more challenging. So we do have to think about initiatives which could enable these communities and families towards economic self-reliance, as opposed to just being hand to mouth through these governmental support programs, like you said. The other point that you made about technology transfer, Indian Silicon Valley is a prime example of how they've enabled the successful transition and transfer of technology in their country. As for the international emphasis on technology transfer, I basically happen to represent this institution at the ministerial declaration of the UN General Assembly. Last week, there was a lot of discussion around means of implementation for sustainable development goals that you must have heard. Uh, Developed countries, I cannot name them because of the Chatham House rule. Developed countries at large, blocked the move of technology transfer just to monopolize, that technical advantage that these countries have. So until or unless we have conducive enough policies at the national level, we cannot push for international actors to actually ensure that technology transfer for countries like Pakistan. So you're absolutely right that we have to, create that conducive environment first here, and then try and engage with different governmental entities at the international level to ensure that we have the technology transfer, made sure for developing countries, in particular Pakistan. Now, I'd like to move to Professor Raza Ali. Sir, you spoke about the lockdown situation, and we understand the international estimations are also projecting that the lockdown itself, the costs that we're facing, the damages that we're seeing because of the lockdown could be more expensive than addressing the pandemic itself. But as far as international financing is concerned, that's where we need to focus. We also have to diversify our production capacities, our supply chains. I think I would now move to Dr. Imran Sharif rather, and ask what exactly could be some of the structural economic governance measures that we could take in Pakistan. What kind of policies do you see have that futuristic scope to help us leverage from this situation that we're in because of the pandemic, sir?
Yeah, it's a good question that the government should initiate some steps towards this transfer of from one business to another business, and the government should guide through the, I think, uh, some chamber of commerce and some meetings with the stakeholders. But as far as I would say that the change of this informal sector economy, I just look at the three parts of the GDP of Pakistan. One is, that manufacturing, other is agriculture, and third one is the services. So
Hmm.
every government is emphasizing on the services sector. No one is
Right.
looking at the manufacturing sector. So definitely they have shrink down the contribution of agriculture sector in the economy. So we are exporting our raw material. We are not making so the value added to our products. So we are giving them the wheat, and we are receiving the porridge and all the food for the children and from the Europe and from other countries. So this is
Hmm.
what unfortunately we are doing here. And another thing is that that when in 1971
Hmm.
there was a big issue. So everybody was talking about that the GDP of Pakistan is going towards the East Pakistan. So
Right.
just because they are very there are the lot of floods every day and every month and every time. So now at this moment, if you look at the economy of Bangladesh and Pakistan, so there is a hell of difference in terms of even that our external debt, in terms of our manufacturing, even that the people from Pakistan, they have made investment in Bangladesh in textile industry. So this is
Right.
what's really surprising, that they
Hmm.
are getting the cotton from here and they are making so the value added in Bangladesh.
Hmm.
So what Pakistani people are, so I think the government should think about all that. So
Yeah.
they should, I think, impose some duties on the export of such of raw material. So
Hmm.
the government should give some incentives. I think now it is the time that in this CPEC, the government
Hmm.
should, even that if the Pakistani investors cannot do all that, but they
Hmm.
should give some incentives to the Chinese investors so that they can start here the businesses here. So
Hmm.
there will be the two type of effect will come. The one is that the Pakistani economy will be strengthened. Secondly,
Hmm.
the new technology will be transferred to Pakistan towards the value added of the goods and services related to the agriculture sector or the small manufacturing sector. And
Right.
secondly, that the Chinese can get the benefit of the some lesser cost on the transport, because if
Hmm.
they produce in China and they send it back to so some Europe or some America and some other countries, so
Yeah.
definitely the transportation cost will come down. So if
Hmm.
they I think the government should give some incentive to the investors, that it is the hub now at the moment. The hub is economic hub is becoming
Hmm.
in Pakistan at different places on the all side of the route of the CPEC. So
Hmm.
I think now it is a time to transfer the technology from so some other parts of the world to the Pakistan. So in that way, I think the economic activity would be started in Pakistan, and definitely we will be able to achieve 5 to 6, 7% growth rate in the country. So if we will do all that, what we are doing now at the moment, so we will always be looking for only to bring our economy to the positive growth rate, nothing else. So we should, I think the government should concentrate on the activities, on some policies relating to the transfer of technology with the stakeholders. So you
Right.
rightly pointed out the point. So to how to increase the growth rate and the economy and the GDP, and definitely consequently the people who will be engaged towards that economic activities, definitely they will get the employment and their per capita will be increased definitely. So there would be a positive change in the aggregate demand side, but at the moment nothing is happening because this pandemic is a very temporary situation. So might be in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, hardly in a 1 year. So everything would be reversed back, and then definitely Pakistan should think, so taking this opportunity, an opportunity to think about some alternatives to generate the economic activities in the country.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor. Greenwich University has also been part of the generalized scheme of preferences plus review, GSP plus, that we know as. So, I mean, the emphasis from the Europeans, when they reviewed Pakistan's status last year, before the pandemic, they also emphasize that we need to diversify our economic potential. At that time, over 105 industrial units were shut down within a space of say 6 months. So they also kind of emphasize, they brought these statistics to the government of Pakistan, and they kind of also emphasize that we need to diversify our economic potential. We need to equally leverage our agriculture and industrial sector along with the services sector to ensure that we have a stable economic environment, not just for Pakistan, but also to be able to enhance our market share across these European Union countries, where we can send our exports without any tariffs. Almost like 96% of the products do not carry any tariffs as far as Pakistani market share for the European Union is concerned. So we can still tap those opportunities. The products, I mean, there you will see Bangladeshi products, you'll see Indian products. They have a different valuation, different standard when it comes to European imports. But as far as Pakistani products are concerned, we definitely need to look into these sectors and try and enhance our capacities as well as the quality of our products to enhance our market share moving forward, which becomes even more critical as far as the pandemic situation is concerned. I'll now move to Dr. Zilakat Khan. Sir, what would be some of the structural economic governance reforms that you would propose, some policies that the government needs to adopt to surmount this uphill battle that we're in the pandemic?
You see that in our country, the one of the important thing is the governance issue.
Right.
Last month, we have seen that the government could not establish its rate in case when it reduced the prices of petrol in the country. What they did, the oil companies with the masses of Pakistan, they stopped. So first of all, we have to focus on governance issue, and we have to improve our governance in Pakistan and to establish rid of the government of the state in the economy in the country. Again, as I suggested, few things. Almost as for example, the smuggling. So far is the smuggling in concern. Almost 20 or 21 agencies are there to check smuggling in the country. But we know that where it has been checked on any border, whether it is Iran, it is Afghanistan or India, there is always smuggling and the goods are coming into the country. And the essential items which are needed by the country, by the people of the country, they are going out of the country. So before all these structural reforms and things, we have to improve our governance issue. This is the most important factor or most important issue, that governance should be improved. And it should be according to the prevailing situation of the country, not on the guidelines or on the uh, instructions, directives given by the donor agencies, by the IMF or World Bank that you have to do this. Keeping
Absolutely.
in view the ground realities, we have to improve our governance issue.
Hmm. Thank you very much, sir. I think economic diplomacy would also play a critical role when it comes to economic governance reforms, especially at the national level. And thank you for articulating.
And
I'm
sorry,
very
one important thing again, sorry, I would like
sure,
to add
sure.
here. So, in order to for a successful economic policies, we need charter of economy. I have suggested it, and so many talk shows
Hmm,
that all the political parties they have to agreed upon on the economic the charter of economy, and
hmm,
at least whatever they agreed that should be for 15 to 20 years, as we
hmm,
did in case of charter of democracy. उसका भी
hmm,
कुछ अच्छा हाल नहीं हुआ, लेकिन at least for economic prosperity of the country, all the political stakeholders, political parties, they have to agree upon certain points that in
hmm,
future this will be the economic guidelines, and whosoever is in the government, they have
hmm,
to adopt this policy. They have not to change this.
hmm.
So this is very important for the improvement of the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, sir. I was just uh, adding to your comment that economic diplomacy will also play a critical role, especially in terms of negotiating terms with not just these international financing institutions, one of which you mentioned, IMF, but also in terms of the investors, to ensure what Professor Imran alluded to in terms of technology transfer, in terms of production capacities at the national level. Thank you very much for these comments. Now I'll move to Professor Azali Khan for your recommendations in terms of micro and economic governance reforms that we need at the national level to stabilize our economy amid COVID-19 and moving forward.
Yes, Ali. First of all, sorry for basically I have missed some part of your program due to technical and connectivity problems.
That's all right.
But the Dr. Saab and Dr. Imran and the Dr. Zalakat were talking about the technological transfers and e-commerce and capacity building. So here I would like to add that there is a need to restructure our education system, right? There is a
Hmm,
time to collaborate the industry with the education system. So,
hmm,
and we should focus on the internet, IT technology and computer technology and software and telecom. So these areas basically in future will become the part of development economics.
hmm,
Another important thing is that you were talking about the government policy. I have suggested that the 4 point. Now, the first important thing is that the government basically must address the basic supply and demand issues to prevent shortage and price spikes and suffering the short term
hmm.
shortages. It is essential to ensure that the production and distribution of food
Right.
and medicine, which in turn require keeping transportation and basic public services like water, energy, electricity, and communication up and running. The second
Hmm,
important thing is that the domestic financial circuit in local currency. So for supporting the supply and demand for basic goods and services will require an expansion of money supply. And here the central bank must take a serious steps that
yeah.
exceed recent monetary interventions. And the central bank must expand their options for lending to the private sector as well as to the government. The
Hmm,
central bank should also finance the public sector directly with the objective expanding food programs and safety net programs. This is a special situation. Supporting the operation of the health system, financing other basic services, and investing in the public works. These initiatives will definitely expand the money supply. Then
hmm,
thirdly, the foreign currency issue, supply and demand for the foreign currency. The
hmm,
government must be able to manage foreign currency, calculating the cash flow needed to finance the import of foods, medicine, energy, and other basic materials. for at least 6 months while considering the flow of external debts. The another point which I have mentioned, that the role of international organizations. So we need to develop and reestablish the or renegotiate with the international organizations regarding the loans and our debts. And talking about the lockdown, remember that the complete lockdown is not solution for the less developed economies. And I would suggest that there's a need to adopt the smart containment strategy that allow people to continue earning a living so they can buy food and support their families. The another thing which I want to discuss here, the two, I think that the two emerging opportunities in a post COVID-19 world, by which Pakistan can take the advantage to
Right.
reform the economy. The one is luckily, or you can see that dramatically low oil and commodity prices, especially import inputs, will create a buffer within its current account even after considering 15-20% drop in export and remittances. Need to redesign of global supply chain to attract foreign investor and allocate resources to the new industries like IT and computers and other also. The another important thing, that the crisis basically opens opportunity where Pakistan current geopolitical advantages sit. United States, you know that United States will want to exit Afghanistan even faster, which can help us to secure debts relief in the interest of stable region. Right? US
Yeah.
and China are also locked in a battle.
Yeah.
Pakistan has the opportunity to gain access to the both markets. Right?
Yeah.
This is the moment for Pakistan to renegotiate our social contract, to spend more in healthcare, social safety net for the poor, and linking COVID-19 bailout for business to enter the tax rate. So this is my comments. I think that if the government basically seriously and sincerely focus on this, definitely we will improve our economy and we overcome this COVID-19.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that critical point that you made in terms of debt relief through US's exit strategy from Afghanistan, because Pakistan has definitely played a key role in ensuring a safe passage and a safe exit strategy for the US negotiating with Taliban. And I think we could take some lessons from the Egyptian example, how they secured such kind of reliefs in the Middle East. We could have also like negotiated, but I mean, moving forward, there are still several avenues in terms of bilateral and multilateral relations where we can definitely cash in our strategic worth across different platforms and try and see what we acquire in return for our country. Thank you, Minhajur Absab, for joining us. I would also like to request your recommendations, how you see being a media person, how you see what could be some of the measures that we could actually adopt at the governmental level, at the industry level, to stabilize our economy in Pakistan. What would be your recommendations?
जी बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। पहले तो मैं डॉक्टर शफीकुर रहमान साहब का शुक्रिया अदा करूँगा, उन्होंने मुझे पढ़ाया भी है, मेरे टीचर भी रहे हैं और उन्होंने मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी दी है कि मैं इस ऑनलाइन कॉन्फ्रेंस में अपने जो व्यूज़ हैं उसको थोड़ा सा उसका इज़हार कर सकूँ। देखिए, ये कोविड जो है अब आ चुका है और ये इतनी जल्दी जाएगा नहीं, और इसके साथ ही अब आपको इस दुनिया में रहना है, जीना है। ये होगा कि इसकी जो शिद्दत है, जिसको इंटेंसिटी कहते हैं, वो कम होती चली जाएगी और अल्टीमेटली ये होगा कि फ्यूचर में नज़ला, ज़ुकाम, खांसी, फ्लू का नाम जो है वो कोविड हो जाएगा, जिसको कोरोना कहते हैं। अब इसने जो ग्लोबली जो सिचुएशन क्रिएट की है वो देखें, पूरी सिर्फ पाकिस्तान ही नहीं, पूरा अमेरिका, यूरोप, फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड, सेकंड वर्ल्ड, सारे की सारी इकोनॉमी सबकी जो है वो बहुत बुरी तरीके से अफेक्टेड हुई है। अब ये जो अफेक्टेड हुई है इसके साथ डेफिनेटली पाकिस्तान एक बहुत स्मॉल साइज की हमारी इकोनॉमी और जो हमारा ओवरऑल जो इम्पैक्ट है ग्लोबली वो बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं है। कुछ सेक्टर्स में हम बहुत अच्छा रोल प्ले करते हैं, लेकिन वो कुछ बदकिस्मती से कुछ अरसे के दौरान हमने उस में भी हमारा जो रोल है वो खासा मिनिमाइज हो गया। हमें अगर हमारी देखिए पूरी जो उसकी वर्ल्ड बैंक की फोरकास्ट है उसकी और IMF की जो फोरकास्ट है कि सारी इकोनॉमी जो है वो नेगेटिव जाएगी, पाकिस्तान की भी नेगेटिव ही जाएगी, नेगेटिव ग्रोथ शो करेगी, GDP आपका नेगेटिव होगा, सब कुछ होगा। लेकिन हमें जो चीज इम्पैक्ट करेगी वो सबसे ज्यादा डिपेंड करता ये है कि आपकी जो इकोनॉमी है उसका रियल इम्पैक्ट आपके पास आएगा आपके लोगों के ऊपर, पॉजिटिव या नेगेटिव दोनों। इसमें एक चीज जो मैं समझता हूँ कि सबसे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है जिसको लोग को इतना ज्यादा फील नहीं करते या उनको उस पर उन्होंने तवज्जो नहीं दी कि पाकिस्तान में एक पैरेलल इकोनॉमी जिसको ब्लैक इकोनॉमी कहते हैं ना वो ज्यादा एग्जिस्ट करती है। तो आपकी डॉक्यूमेंटेड इकोनॉमी से हट के आपकी जो है पैरेलल इकोनॉमी जिसको ब्लैक इकोनॉमी कहते हैं वो मूव कर रही है। और उसका जो साइज जी उसका जो साइज है वो आपकी डॉक्यूमेंटेड इकोनॉमी से बहुत ज्यादा है। तो डॉक्यूमेंटेडली जो आप ये तो कह सकते हैं कि जी हमारी ग्रोथ बहुत नेगेटिव होगी, हमारी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन भी खराब होगी, हमारी प्रोडक्शन साइड भी बहुत अच्छा प्ले नहीं करेगी, सर्विसेज सेक्टर्स भी डेफिनेटली जाएंगे, सारे सेक्टर्स जाएंगे। लेकिन प्रैक्टिकली अगर आप जाके देखेंगे तो इतना ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट हमारी इकोनॉमी में, इकोनॉमी से बड़ा हमारे आम लोगों के ऊपर वो चीज नहीं आएगा। इंडस्ट्रीज हुई बंद कोविड की वजह से, ठीक है बंद हो गई, प्रोडक्शन साइड आपका कम हो गया, लेकिन हमारी जो ज्यादा इकोनॉमी बेस करती है वो छोटे छोटे इदारे हैं जिनको आप कॉटेज इंडस्ट्री कह सकते हैं या स्मॉल मीडियम एंटरप्राइजेस कह सकते हैं, जहाँ पे 4, 6, 8 वर्कर्स काम करते हैं और वो चीजें प्रोड्यूस हो रही हैं और वो चीजें बिक रही हैं। वो इकोनॉमी में डॉक्यूमेंटेड नहीं है कहीं से भी। हाँ, बड़े जो इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट हैं वो सफर किया उन्होंने, लेकिन उनका सफर जो था वो इस तरीके से नहीं था क्योंकि उनकी पूरी इन्वेस्टमेंट उनकी अपनी नहीं है, बहुत सारे उसके अंदर स्टेक होल्डर हैं, बैंक्स की फाइनेंसिंग हैं, मॉर्गेज फाइनेंसिंग हैं, स्टॉक मार्केट में लोगों की पब्लिक फाइनेंसिंग हुई है, तो वो सारी चीजें हैं। तो इसका इम्पैक्ट किसी एक आदमी के ऊपर नहीं जाने वाला, वो तो ओवरऑल जाएगा। लेकिन हमारी जो बात मैं कहना चाहता हूँ ये कि आम आदमी के ऊपर इसका इम्पैक्ट इतना ज्यादा नहीं आएगा जितना ज्यादा के जिसको प्रोपागेट किया जा रहा है, क्योंकि हमारी नॉन डॉक्यूमेंटेड जो इकोनॉमी है जिसको ब्लैक इकोनॉमी कहते हैं, पैरेलल इकोनॉमी कह लें आप, जो जिसका जाए नाम देते हैं, वो उसका साइज जो है आपके डॉक्यूमेंटेड इकोनॉमी से बहुत बड़ा है और वो किसी भी सूरत इफेक्टेड नहीं हुई। हमारे यहाँ लॉकडाउन हुआ, सब कुछ हुआ, लेकिन मुझ समेत आप लोग सब जानते हैं कि काम हो रहा था, फैक्ट्रियां दिखाने के लिए बंद की गई थी, लेकिन फैक्ट्री के अंदर अल्टीमेटली प्रोडक्शन जारी थी। 100% शटडाउन कहीं पे भी नहीं हुआ था, ठीक है। 100% अगर शटडाउन हुआ था तो वो आपके लेबर्स के ऊपर हुआ था, जो डेली वेजर अर्नर थे उनके लिए हुआ था। तो वो तो इम्पैक्ट कर गए, लेकिन उनके साथ सर्वाइविंग का चांस ये था कि उनके पास सेविंग्स तो कोई थी नहीं, तो वो भी सर्वाइव कर गए। अब जैसे ही आपकी इकोनॉमी ओपन हो रही है, मार्केट्स ओपन हो रही है, वो अपना ग्रो कर रहे हैं। जो इसमें सबसे ज्यादा फंसा वो फंसा आपका इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट और आपका जो है एक्सपोर्टर फंसा। एक्सपोर्ट भी इस दौरान चलती रही, आपकी एयर जो ट्रांसपोर्ट थी वो बंद थी, लेकिन बाई शिपमेंट आपकी सारी ट्रांसपोर्ट चल रही थी, एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट सारा चल रहा था। हमारे यहाँ सारा मसला ये है कि इकोनॉमी हमारी इसलिए नहीं ग्रो करती कि हमारे जो इकोनॉमी के रेगुलेटर्स हैं, जैसे स्टेट बैंक है, SEC है, CCP है, इस तरह के जो दूसरे इदारे हैं जो हमारी सारी इंडस्ट्री और सब चीजों को रेगुलेट करते हैं, वो इतने वीक है कि वो किसी भी तरीके से चीजों को कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाते। और उसकी वजह से ये होता है कि जो आपके जो मार्केट के प्लेयर हैं वो मार्केट को जब चाहते हैं मैनिपुलेट कर लेते हैं। उसकी एक छोटी सी मिसाल मैं आपको देता हूँ कि जब हमारे पास कोविड पेंडेमिक चल रहा था तो ना आपकी एक्सपोर्ट थी, ना आपकी इंपोर्ट थी, ना आपका मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर में कोई चीज प्रोड्यूस कर रहा था, ना इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन हो रही थी, ना कहीं इन्वेस्टमेंट आ रही थी। हुकूमत को इवन डेट पे नहीं करना था, सब चीजें डेफर हो चुकी थी, ठीक है। कोई लोन की रीपेमेंट नहीं थी, कोई इंस्टॉलमेंट नहीं था, कोई डेट पेमेंट नहीं थी। लेकिन उस दौरान जो है जो मार्केट प्लेयर थे, जो मैनिपुलेटर्स थे, उन्होंने डॉलर को 150 से उठा के 170 पे ले गया। तो वो डॉलर की ट्रेड कहाँ पे हो रही थी? आपके रेगुलेटर स्टेट बैंक इतना वीक था कि उनको नहीं कंट्रोल कर सका। कहाँ पे ये डॉलर्स की कहाँ पे डिमांड थी, किसके पास था डॉलर? कि डॉलर आप उन एलीट लोगों के पास था जिन्होंने होल्ड करके रखा हुआ था, जो इस सिचुएशन में भी मार्केट को मैनिपुलेट करके अपना प्रॉफिट कर रहे थे। अगर मेरे पास $1,00,000 अगर कि मेरे पास सेविंग में पड़ा हुआ है, जो अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड है, मैंने लॉकर में या कहीं छुपा के रखा हुआ है, और इस पीरियड के दौरान 10-15 दिन में 30 रुपए पाकिस्तानी करेंसी की वैल्यू हो जाती है, तो $1,00,000 में मैंने तो 30 लाख रुपए कमा लिया। तो जो आपके इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट है, जो बिजनेसमैन है, उनको तो कहीं से भी कोई लॉस नहीं हुआ है। लॉस इकोनॉमी का हुआ है, लॉस एक लेबर क्लास का हुआ है, मिडिल क्लास इफेक्ट सारे हुए हैं, लेकिन ये नहीं हुआ है कि आप बिल्कुल जमीन से लग गए हो या आप भूखे मरने लग गए हो, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है। अभी भी आप सड़क पे निकल के देखें तो कितने वेंडर्स आपको नजर आएंगे। ये सारी अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड इकोनॉमी आपकी चल रही है और वो अपने आप को उन्होंने सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयड किया हुआ है और वो कमा रहे हैं। बात सिर्फ ये है कि हमारी इकोनॉमी का जो साइज है, वो आपका जो डॉक्यूमेंटेड साइज है बहुत छोटा है, और अनडॉक्यूमेंटेड जो है, नॉन डॉक्यूमेंटेड साइज जो है वो बहुत बड़ा है, जिसको पैरेलल इकोनॉमी कहते हैं। वो पैरेलल इकोनॉमी किसी भी सूरत जो है वो इस कोरोना पैंडेमिक से हिट नहीं हुई, तो इसलिए आम आदमी के ऊपर इफेक्ट आएगा, लेकिन इतना ज्यादा इफेक्ट नहीं आएगा जो आपको ग्लोबली नजर आ रहा है, यूरोप, अमेरिका और दूसरे वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज में, क्योंकि उनकी यहाँ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन जो है मोर देन 100% है। हमारे यहाँ डॉक्यूमेंटेशन सिर्फ सर्टेन चीजों के अंदर है, उसके अलावा तो किसी भी चीज में नहीं।
आपकी रिकमेंडेशंस क्या है मूविंग फॉरवर्ड?
सॉरी, आवाज कट गई।
पाकिस्तानी इकोनॉमी को स्टेबलाइज करने के लिए, बेहतर बनाने के लिए क्या रेकमेंड करते हैं आप मूविंग फॉरवर्ड?
देखिए, इकोनॉमी को बेहतर किसी भी सूरत में अगर आप करना चाहते हैं ना, तो उसका सिर्फ एक ही हल है कि आपके जो भी रेगुलेटर्स हैं, आदर स्टेट बैंक है, SECP है, CCP है और इस तरह के नेपरा है, ठीक है, इन सबों को आपको बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग करना पड़ेगा। जब तक ये नहीं स्ट्रॉन्ग होंगे कोई काम नहीं हो सकता। आप जितनी भी एफर्ट्स कर लें कोई चीज नहीं हो सकती। इकोनॉमी कभी भी ग्रो नहीं करेगी। इकोनॉमी जिस तरीके से चल रही है इसी तरीके से चलती रहेगी। मेन इसके अंदर रोल जो है वो रेगुलेटर का है, क्योंकि आपकी इकोनॉमी को मैनिपुलेट करते हैं, रन करते हैं चंद जो इसके प्लेयर हैं। वो इतने स्ट्रॉन्ग है कि वो आपकी हर चीज ऐसी तैसी कर देते हैं। जैसे आप देख लें, शुगर कमीशन का क्या हुआ, शुगर का रिपोर्ट इन्होंने ओपन कर दी करंट गवर्नमेंट ने, लेकिन एक्शन तो किसी के खिलाफ नहीं हुआ। चीनी उतनी महंगी बिक रही है। बिजली का क्या हुआ, बिजली कराची में अवेलेबल नहीं है, प्राइस बढ़ा दी। ठीक है, पेट्रोल का क्या हुआ, मार्केट में पेट्रोल की क्या थी, बिफोर टाइम आपने जितना कम किया था, एक साथ आपने जो है वो उसको जो है प्राइस जो है पेट्रोल की आपने बढ़ा दी, 25 रुपीज, मोर देन 25 रुपीज ऐड कर दिया। उसके बाद कैबिनेट उसको अप्रूव कर देता है कि जी ये जो प्राइस सही हुई, सही बढ़ाई है। उसकी जस्टिफिकेशन किधर है? प्राइसेस कम होती हैं तो उसके बेनिफिट आवाम को मिलता है, पेट्रोल की प्राइसेस का नहीं मिलता। प्राइसेस अप होती हैं तो उसका जो है नुकसान आवाम तक फौरन शिफ्ट कर दिया जाता है कि हर चीज की प्राइस बढ़ा दी जाती है। तो ये सारी वीकनेस है। ये वीकनेस किसकी है? रेगुलेटर्स की है। रेगुलेटर रेगुलेट नहीं कर रहे। जब चीजें नहीं करेंगे, इसी तरीके से DRAP है जो ड्रग रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटी है, वो भी काम नहीं कर रहा। तो ये सारी चीजें आपकी इकोनॉमी जो है ना वो चंद मखसूस प्लेयर्स के हाथ में है। वो जैसे चाहेंगे चलाएंगे। इसमें मैं बहस कर लूं, कोई भी बहस कर ले, कुछ नहीं हो सकता। जब तक रेगुलेटर काम नहीं करेगा स्ट्रिक्टली अकॉर्डिंग टू लॉ, कुछ नहीं हो सकता। अगर आप पाकिस्तान का कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन उठा के देखें, जितने रेगुलेटरी अथॉरिटीज हैं इनकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन उठा के देखें, आपको पता चलेगा कि पूरा एक लॉ बना हुआ है। हर चीज को उन्होंने रोकने के लिए, कंट्रोल करने के लिए सारी चीजें एक्सप्लेन की हुई है, लेकिन उस पर कोई इम्प्लीमेंटेशन नहीं है, कोई उस पर काम करने के लिए नहीं तैयार। और इवन ये जो आपके मार्केट प्लेयर हैं, जो जिनको आप कार्टेल कह लें, जिनको आप माफिया कह लें, कुछ भी कह लें, वो इतने पावरफुल है कि वो हुकूमत को भी वो बिल्कुल घुटनों पे बैठा देते हैं कि जी आप उनकी बात मानो।
थैंक यू वेरी मच, बड़ी नवाजिश मिनाज साहब। काफी मनीखेज डिस्कशन हुई आपकी तरफ से। बिल्कुल जो रेगुलेटरी स्पेस है, रियासत का जो पॉलिसी स्पेस है, उसको सिक्योर होना चाहिए ताकि वो अपने जो शहरी हैं उनके राइट्स के दिफा में ये रेगुलेशन इंश्योर कर सके, और मार्केट जो है वो टर्म्स को ना तो मोनोपलाइज करे ना तो तय करे। इट हैज टू बी द रेगुलेटरी एफिशिएंसी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट कि जिसकी बुनियाद पे मूव ऑन विद द फ्यूचर ऑफ आवर इकोनॉमी। Thank you very much, all the panelists. I would now have the first question that we have. The first question is from Dr. Musarat Adnan. She is also the Dean of our Faculty of Business Management. Thank you, ma'am, for the question. How do you think the recovery time period post COVID in developing countries would be different from the developed world? Our capacity to come out of this particular pandemic, how can we compare it with the developed world? Can I have Professor Imran Sharif to comment on this, please, sir?
Thank you. I think so. If we divide this question into two parts, one is the recovery time period. So how
Mm,
it is different to from developed to the developing countries. I think so. The recovery time period definitely would be different, but not to the extent as we think that there would be a big gap between developing and developed country. But as far as other parties concerned, that is about the capacity building. So
mm,
the developing countries would take much time period to make the capacity building in the health sector,
yeah,
in the informal economy, in
mm,
to stabilize, to bring in the economy into positive growth rate. So there would be a much time differently to the developed country because they have the system. So
mm,
they have the market distortion, but in Pakistan we have the market distortions, and in like other developing countries, so
mm,
they have their own problems. So because you know that most of the economies they are relying on their tourism, uh, they are getting some money from some other, so in developing countries particularly, but definitely that pace of the time would be different as compared to the developed countries because
mm,
we have not such type of economy that they can handle at a one time or in a short days. So definitely
mm,
we need a money, we need finances to rebuild our the small economies, our medium enterprises, and
mm,
to bring the economy into out of this negative growth rate. So definitely there would
right.
be a time period, but we should be our government should be the consistent rather than to think that from where and how. But the first question, my always question during this pandemic was has been that so we should start immediately the economic activity. So everybody should not sit at home, so we should go for the economic activity, but keeping in view the preventive measures of COVID-19. So
Mm,
definitely now we have to live with this coronavirus, I think so. So we should
mm,
go with the economic activities, and government should encourage and should support some short-term support for the people who are working on the day-to-day basis, and the economy is the informal sector. So that was associated with small-scale industry. So I think so. There is the recovery time period would be different for the different countries, keeping in view their own circumstances and the position of the economy.
mm. Thank you very much. Professor Zilagat Khan Saab, would you like to make a comment on this, please?
I think there is difference between the capacities of the developed world and that of the less developed world or of the developing world.
Mm,
In case of Pakistan, हमारी पॉपुलेशन कितनी है और हमारे रिसोर्सेज कितने हैं,
mm,
एंड इफ वी कंपेयर दिस विद अ डेवलप्ड कंट्री कि उसकी पॉपुलेशन जो है वो, फॉर एग्जांपल न्यूजीलैंड को हमने अभी किया कि जी उन्होंने कोविड को जो है वो बाय बाय किया। अब
mm,
न्यूजीलैंड की तमाम पॉपुलेशन जो है वो हमारे लाहौर से कम है या लाहौर के बराबर होगी, फिर
mm,
उनके रिसोर्सेज को देख ले और हमारे रिसोर्सेज को देख ले, तो देयर विल बी डिफरेंस के कितने टाइम फ्रेम जो है उसमें हम अपने आप को स्टेबलाइज कर सकते हैं और डेवलप वर्ल्ड कितना कर सकते हैं। तो स्पेसिफिक टाइम फ्रेम जो है वो देना तो मुश्किल है, लेकिन डिपेंड्स अपॉन द कैपेसिटीज ऑफ द इकोनॉमी।
mm.
इस इकोनॉमी की कितनी कैपेसिटी है कि वो अपने आप को जो है दोबारा बिल्डअप कर सके।
ठीक. Thank you very much, sir. Professor Razali Khan Saab, your comment on this, sir.
Yes, I totally agree with the Zalakhat and Imran.
Mm,
Actually, depending upon the population, yes, depending upon the resource, depending upon the capacity of the country. Here, I would like to add one more thing is that how basically you will play with this. What is your strategy? It's depending upon that game. If your strategy is smart and you seriously want to respond that COVID-19 and you want to actually stabilize your economy, then you will have to take the serious steps and
mm.
play smartly. That basically will reduce your time.
ठीक, ठीक. Thank you very much, sir. Uh, that brings me to the end of our program. Unfortunately, I would not be able to take any more questions. There's this renewed emphasis around the world. The pandemic has not only exposed our systemic vulnerabilities, but it's also made us realize that, for instance, the likes of healthcare sector, which is not usually seen as a productive sector in the economy, unfortunately. Neither is education, by the way, which is why we have the least amount of financing available, around the world. So we need to rethink. There's this renewed policy emphasis that we need to enhance our financing capacity across these key strategic sectors like health, education, and social protection. Plus, I would also like to share this in the end note that we understand, the thought process around the world is coming to the conclusion that neoliberalism is failing us altogether. So we probably need to rethink our economies towards sustainable and just economies moving forward. I would now offer my gratitude to the distinguished panelists for being with us here. It's been an hour and a half of stimulating discussions. Thank you very much, all of you. I would also like to reiterate that this is just the beginning of this process. Greenwich University would like to, conduct other seminars also where we can try and establish, a civic infrastructure for collective reflection and collaborative action. And I would like to invite Your Excellencies again for these different kind of seminars and webinars that would be conducting in future. Thank you very much from my side, and I'd now like to hand it over to the chair to close the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. I am very thankful to all of the panelists. They have given their most important time because all of these persons are very important, responsible, and I think this is the first seminar in the Pakistan which is academic, and Greenwich has taken the lead because there are most important professors, responsible persons, not only from the academia but also from the media. मेरी तरफ से ये है कि मैं आई विल बी थैंकफुल टू प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर जिलाका साहब, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर इमरान शरीफ चौधरी साहब, प्रोफेसर डॉक्टर रजा अली साहब, एंड फ्रॉम जंग मिनाजुर रब साहब. इन लोगों ने बड़ा हमारा टाइम दिया एंड दे हैव कंट्रीब्यूटेड अ लॉट. और स्पेशली मैं अली जिलानी साहब का शुक्रिया अदा करूँगा जिन्होंने बहुत ही अच्छे तरीके से इस पूरे वेबिनार को जो कंट्रोल किया है. लेकिन मैं उन लोगों का भी शुक्रिया अदा करूँगा जो इस सेमिनार को यानी टेक्निकली जिन लोगों ने इसमें हमारा साथ दिया है, उसमें खास तौर से उमर जो हमारे बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट पर्सन है. और मैं कहूँगा कि मुझे उमर खान साहब, उसमें ये है कि मेरे तो बहुत कम है इसकी टेक्नोलॉजी, उन्होंने थ्रू आउट जो है वो कल से जो है मुझे वो कह रहे हैं कि सर टेक्नोलॉजी को इस तरह इस्तेमाल करना है और इस तरीके से करना होगा. लेकिन आज मैंने देखा है कि मुझे बहुत मुश्किल लग रहा था कल, बट आई एम हैप्पी टू हैव दिस गुड वेबिनार. एंड मैं आपको अपने वाइस चांसलर साहिबा की तरफ से आप सब लोगों का बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया अदा करूँगा. थैंक यू वेरी मच.
Thank you very much, Dr. I also pay the special thanks to your university who has arranged this wonderful webinar on this COVID-19 and its consequences and impact on the economy. I am thankful to my all colleagues, Dr. Dilkar Khan Sahab, Dr. Razali Khan Sahab, especially Ali Jilani Sahab, and my lovely brother, Professor Dr. Shafiqur Rahman Sahab. And I'm very much thankful to all of you that you gave us the opportunity to make the discussion on this forum. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Allah Hafiz.
Allah.
Thank you.
Allah.
Thank you.
Allah.
Allah Hafiz.